In 230 BC, a kingdom that had stood for 4 centuries, a direct descendant of the venerable Zhou Dynasty, vanished from the map of China. Its end came in a campaign so swift, so overwhelming, its capital barely saw a single significant battle. What does it mean for a nation to die, not with a roar, but with a whimper? Welcome back to the History Atlas. Today, we unravel the final, poignant chapter of the state of Han, centered around the decisive yet understated siege of Xinzheng, a pivotal moment in the unification of China. The late Warring States period, circa 475 to 221 BC, witnessed an unrelenting struggle for supremacy among the 7 warring states of ancient China. Across this volatile geopolitical chessboard, one power, the state of Qin, emerged with a distinct and formidable advantage. Fueled by rigorous legalist reforms that centralized authority, fostered an agrarian economy, and mandated military meritocracy, Qin forged a highly disciplined and efficient war machine. Its military might was without peer, capable of deploying armies numbering in the hundreds of thousands. These forces consisted of highly disciplined conscripts, hardened by decades of brutal warfare. They were led by a professional officer corps, whose promotions were strictly merit-based. Its leaders, most notably King Zheng, the future Qin Shi Huang, harbored an unequivocal ambition: the complete unification of all under heaven, a vision that superseded mere territorial expansion. This objective was underpinned by a meticulously calculated multi-decade grand strategy known as Lianheng, or the Horizontal Alliance. This doctrine aimed to systematically isolate and conquer rival states one by one, thwarting any unified resistance. Qin's military also brought advanced siege engineering catapults, battering rams, and formidable siege towers, all supported by a sophisticated logistics system capable of sustaining large forces far from their heartland. Each Qin soldier, driven by clear rewards for valor, contributed to this relentless war machine. Against this rising power stood the state of Han, established 4 centuries earlier as a direct inheritor of the venerable Zhou legacy. Han found itself in a perilous position within the Central Plains. Strategically trapped between Qin to its west and the vast state of Chu to its south and east, Han had been a pawn in larger conflicts. Decades of unceasing warfare and relentless Qian aggression systematically eroded its strength. Qin had seized critical territories, notably the strategic Nanyang region, isolating Han's capital, Xinzheng. By 230 BC, Han was a mere shadow of its former self. Its sovereignty compromised, its military depleted, and its state often reduced to a virtual vassal, offering concessions only to delay its ultimate demise. Han's long-term strategic blunders had been systemic. It failed to consolidate its strength or forge effective alliances against Qin. King An of Han repeatedly sought military assistance from Zhao, Wei, and Chu, but these desperate diplomatic overtures consistently failed. Each potential ally, gripped by its own vulnerabilities, proved unwilling to incur Qin's wrath for a state so clearly doomed. Isolated and militarily exhausted, Han faced an insurmountable challenge. Its remaining forces, perhaps tens of thousands garrisoning Xinzheng, comprised disheartened conscripts with limited experience. The profound disparity in numbers, training, equipment, and leadership was clear. Qin's reputation for efficiency and ruthlessness instilled deep dread, reinforcing the inevitability of its collapse. For Qin, the elimination of Han was not merely another conquest, it was a calculated, indispensable step. Han's central location physically blocked Qin's direct access to the richer eastern states, making its annexation a strategic imperative for the broader unification campaign. The stage was set for Han's final act. The year 230 BC marked the official commencement of Han's final chapter. From its robust western bases, the formidable Qin army, under the experienced command of Nashi Teng, initiated its calculated eastward advance into the heartland of the state of Han. This was the relentless advance of a highly organized military machine. Columns of disciplined infantry, supported by cavalry and a well-drilled logistics train, systematically covered the terrain. The sheer scale of the Qin force acted as a psychological weapon. Smaller Han towns and scattered garrisons, already depleted by decades of conflict, understood the futility of resistance. Many opted for rapid surrender, allowing Qin forces to sweep through their lands with minimal engagement. There were no pitched battles of consequence along this route, no heroic stands. Han's outer defenses simply dissolved. The path to Xinzheng, the Han capital, was unimpeded by any significant resistance, save for the city walls themselves. This swift absorption of territory underscored Han's profound impotence. Upon reaching Han's capital, Nashi Teng's army commenced its methodical encirclement of Xinzheng. Columns of disciplined soldiers, numbering in the tens of thousands, meticulously established positions, drawing an inescapable ring around the ancient city. Qin's formidable siege train was deployed with grim precision. Vast catapults, battering rams, and siege towers began to rise on the surrounding plains. It was an overwhelming display of force, a psychological weapon designed to extinguish all hope. Xinzheng's rammed earth walls and moats, though typical warring states' defenses, were now hopelessly outmatched. Within them, King An of Han, his court, and the disheartened garrison observed the inexorable process. They were isolated, devoid of allies, and acutely aware of their hopeless position. Any defensive actions, such as archery volleys or minor sorties, would have been mere whispers of resistance against an overwhelming force. These efforts were symbolic, not strategic, lacking the power to alter the inevitable. The fall of Xinzheng was not defined by a protracted clash of arms, nor by a tactical turning point. Instead, the decisive moment arrived as King An of Han made the pragmatic, yet despairing, decision to surrender. He faced not merely a siege, but the manifest end of his venerable lineage. His choice prevented a needless massacre, sparing his people a bloody, futile struggle. Qin, under Nashi Teng, executed this campaign with calculated efficiency. His rapid advance and swift encirclement of Xinzheng testified to Qin's superior logistics and military discipline. The visible deployment of Qin's vast siege engines around the city walls served as a potent psychological weapon, crushing morale and minimizing the need for an actual assault. Environmental factors also played a critical role. Xinzheng sat within flat plains, offering no geographical impediments for Han's defense or Qin's advance. The open terrain facilitated Qin's unhindered deployment of its immense army and heavy siege equipment. Xinzheng's fortifications, while typical, were inadequate against Qin's overwhelming might, especially on flat ground. Stable ground and clear skies during the campaign ensured optimal visibility and movement for besiegers, preventing any environmental respite for the beleaguered defenders. The fall of Xinzheng was thus an inevitable consequence of strategic decay, military disparity, and an environment that favored Qin. The siege of Xinzheng concluded with the surrender of King An of Han to Nashi Teng in 230 BC. This act formally dissolved a kingdom that had stood for 4 centuries. King An was immediately captured, stripped of his regality, and removed from power. The state of Han was abolished, its territory reorganized into Qin's Yingchuan Commandery, a new administrative unit within the expanding empire. Battle casualties remained remarkably low, a stark contrast to typical warring states' campaigns. Precisely because of this swift surrender, the profound tragedy lay not in a count of battlefield dead, but in the complete loss of sovereignty, the systemic erosion of a distinct cultural identity, and the end of political freedom for the Han populace. Former Han aristocrats and officials were relocated, their positions and traditional influences supplanted by Qin's centralized authority. A profound silence descended upon the land, the quiet of a state's political death. The fall of Xinzheng was more than just the tragic end for the state of Han. It marked a watershed moment, for Han became the first of the 6 major warring states to be fully annexed by Qin, setting a profound precedent after earlier campaigns had absorbed states like Ba and Shu. This quiet capitulation, rather than a bloody final stand, was the decisive opening move in a cascade that would reshape China. Qin's swift, overwhelming, and methodically executed campaign against Han served as a stark blueprint and a psychological blow to the remaining kingdoms of Wei, Chu, Zhao, Yan, and Qi. It demonstrated unequivocally Qin's peerless military might, its superior administrative efficiency in converting conquered territories into commanderies, and the sheer strategic genius driving King Zheng's ambition. The events at Xinzheng reinforced the grim reality that individual resistance against such a centralized, disciplined power was futile. This pivotal annexation ushered in the final, rapid phase of the warring states period, ultimately leading to the establishment of the first unified imperial China. It signified the definitive end of an era defined by centuries of fragmented states vying for power, and heralded the dawn of a new, centralized empire, built on ruthless efficiency and absolute control. The story of Han's collapse and Qin's relentless rise serves as a potent reflection on the nature of power, the imperative of adaptation for survival, and the immense, often brutal, cost of forging unity from disunion. If the story of Han's collapse and Qin's rise captivates you, leave a comment below with which warring state you think was next to fall, or what other hidden chapters of this historical period you'd like us to explore. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more journeys through the annals of history.